Hola, hola guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Roxanne. If it's your first time here, then welcome. Today I want to talk to you guys about my favorite nonfiction reads of the 2017. This year I read the most amount of nonfiction that I've ever read, and I loved it so much. I love nonfiction, and I'm just gonna keep reading as much as I can. It's just there's just such a plethora of books to pick from. Literally anything you're interested in has a nonfiction book that you can probably devour and learn even more. And I just loved it, and so I want to talk to you guys about my favorites from this past year. The first was one that I listened to on audiobook, and that is Hunger. Oh no, it's too black, it's too white. It's Hunger by Roxane Gay. This is a collection of essays in which Roxane talks about her body, how she got her body, the circumstances surrounding different moments in her life that led her to view herself and her body and health in a particular way, to allow herself to have the body that she has. It's about the difficulties that come with her weight. It is the way that society views her, the way that she views society and her place within it. It is such an important read because we don't get enough discussion on bodies, fatness, obesity, diet culture, anything like that. We don't get enough of it, and I think it was repetitive at times, and because I was listening to it on audiobook, it felt a little choppy because the chapters were so short. But overall, the message that she's trying to get across and the discussions that she has and the themes that she explores through this essay collection, I think, are so important that I literally couldn't stop thinking about it when I was reading it and afterwards, because there were so many things that I could relate to. And I think that so many people can benefit from reading it, because it'll really open your eyes to things that you might not have thought of before. So definitely pick it up if you can. If you can listen to it on audiobook, please do, or just in any format. It was really good. I love Roxane Gay, and I can't wait. I have other books of hers in my TBR for this next year, so I can't wait. Next is, I was in a huge true crime kick this year, especially towards the end of the year. I really want to become well versed in true crime books and really kind of compile a list that I think is a good list that I can recommend to you guys of good true crime books. And so I'm trying to make my way through many of them so I can make that list for you guys. My favorite one from this year has been Columbine by Dave Cullen, and this one I liked for two reasons, mostly. One is because I think it's so important to read still, and especially if you live in this country. This happened back in 1999, but this hasn't stopped happening. You know what I'm saying? It's like something that had such a big impact, that had so much press attention, that so many people remember, and yet it still happens and nothing has changed. And so I just think this is one of those books that everyone needs to read, because it really shines a light on what happened. It is very well written. It is very approachable. It doesn't ever it doesn't sensationalize anything, at least not in my opinion, and I really got to learn about all of the victims, which I think a lot of true crime books miss. They focus so much on the perpetrators of the crime that you forget to talk about the victims as much, and their stories are more important. And I walked away from this novel feeling like I knew a lot about them, more so than I did the actual criminals. I think this is a very important read. I think this is, even despite how big it looks, it's a book you can get through very quickly because it's very approachable, it's very readable. I think this was a great read. I'm very happy that I read it. And I definitely recommend it, especially if you like true crime and if you just like nonfiction in general. I've heard the other one that I really enjoyed was One Day We'll All Be Dead and None of This Will Matter by Scotchy Cole. This book, I connected with it so much. I read it almost entirely in one sitting. There's so much about her that I related to. My relationship with my body, with my relationship with my hair, my relationship with my father. It is just, it's funny, it's witty, it's super approachable. It's so readable. Like I said, I read it in almost one sitting, and it was just so entertaining. But within all of that, she weaves social commentary, and she weaves difficult topics that a lot of us don't want to talk about, and she does so really well. I think I enjoyed this so much, and I definitely recommend it. If you can pick it up on audiobook, please do. It's probably something that you'll breeze right through, and it might not be the most original or in-depth discussion of the topics that she addresses in the book, but in the series, in the essays that she writes. But regardless, I just thought it was so good and entertaining, and I really connected with it, and it was one of my favorites of the year. The New Jim Crow: Mass Incarceration in the Age of Colorblindness by Michelle Alexander. This book is so important. I can't stress it enough. I think I have highlighted everywhere. I was that student that could never just pick the important parts because I thought everything was important. So literally this entire book is pretty much highlighted. This is a book about exactly what the title says it is. It's about talking about mass incarceration, the way that it affects men of color in this country. It does limit itself mostly to men and in this country, and she addresses that in the introduction, and hopes that someone will discuss it from the perspective of how it affects women, or more internationally as well, but specifically in this country. And that's why it's called the New Jim Crow, because of the Jim Crow laws that we had. And this book is so important, and it will piss you off so much because you'll see how unfair the system is, specifically to men of color. And yeah, it's really gonna enrage you if you care at all about this, if you care at all about the communities of color, because it certainly enraged me. But I think it's an important read that is very worthy of the time it takes to read it, because it opens your eyes to a lot of things that you might not have known. And I think if you want to be knowledgeable, if you want to become involved in activism, in any sort of in nonprofits that help communities of color, anything like that, then you should read it. This should be a book that's kind of in your reading list, because it will discuss things that you are going to encounter, and it'll help you understand the anger that the Black and brown communities feel with regards to the justice system and how unjust it is for them. And I thought it was a fucking amazing book, and I'm really glad that I read it, and I'm sure it won't be the first, or I'm sure it won't be the last time that I read it, because it's just that important. If you have watched the documentary 13 on Netflix, then you will have seen Michelle Alexander, because it talks about this topic as well. That's what it's about. And I definitely recommend it if you haven't. If you are scared of getting into a book like this for any reason, then an easier introduction might be to watch that documentary. I definitely recommend it. So, hola guys. So I actually forgot to talk about one nonfiction book that I actually loved as well, and it's just because I listened to it on audiobook and I forgot, and I think I had it written down, and I also I guess I must have overlooked it, but editing Roxanne remembered. And so let me just find the author here. The book that I want to talk to you guys about is Sally Ride, America's First Woman in Space by Lynn Sher. This book was so good. I mean, I learned so much about this woman, things that I had no idea. Just things that she did. She was a lesbian, which apparently wasn't widely known until after she passed. I mean, she did such extraordinary things, and you learn all about that in this book. And I think it's written so well. It's so engaging. Just like, for me, really, a good nonfiction book, it just really has to be readable and engaging, and this was definitely that. I didn't want to stop listening to it. I loved hearing about her life, all of the amazing things that she did for education and young girls and just women, and you learned about all the issues within NASA to get the first woman astronaut, and how they wanted to there was like a formula for how to do diversity, and it was like, you start with a woman, and then you go with a black man, and then it's the ridiculous things of that people think about, when really all we want is diversity and to be included, and the things that companies and organizations and I don't know, everybody tries to do. It's like that you have to do it in the most palatable way possible, and it's absurd and ridiculous. But she overcame so many obstacles, and she did so many things, and she was so smart, and I learned so much about her, and I gained a new role model that I never even thought, so yeah, it was really, really interesting, and I really would definitely recommend it if you're at all interested in space, if you're interested in biographies, if you're interested in science, in feminism. Read it, because I think it was really interesting, and it was really great, and it was really enjoyable. So there's that. So, yeah, those are my favorite nonfiction picks of the year. They're all things that matter a lot to me. I really enjoyed all of them, and I recommend all of them. Let me know if you've read any of them, what you thought. Let me know if you've read any nonfiction this year that really just blew your mind. I am always looking for recommendations. As always, thank you for watching and for listening. I love you guys.